Mi gente, look at this. This is one of the best screens you'll ever see. Well, God knows how long. Hopefully, we can do this one again. But before I get into it, to this side, that side, whatever side, that side, there it is. To the left of me, we have Nelson from Amish Country Mets fan. Right below me, we have one half of Shea and Sons. That's the great Keith. And we have the Mr. Famous in the caddy corner. And
Stop
celebrate
that.
the Shea, Mr. SNY. What is
Stop
going
that.
on?
What's up, brothers?
And not much. Let me sprinkle because I don't have obviously you amazing Boricuas have your gear on. I don't have my gear on, so this is the best I can do right now. Unfortunately, like you know what I'm saying.
That's
Oh!
it.
Shut that off before we get copyrighted.
Copyright.
We're gonna have to
All right.
sample that and make that an intro, 20-second intro or something, so we don't get in trouble.
Shout out to all my Boricuas and my other Latinos out there, man. Thank you again, Tom, for having me on. Shout out to baby brother in the comments. It's dope to be around you amazing gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. And real quick before we get into it, I just want to say to honor to share screen with you guys once again. And for those that are tuning in, much love, much appreciation. Drop the likes, the subscribes, the comments. You see all the on the ticker where we're at, the lives, wherever you're watching from, let us know. And this is big for me because at the end of the day, we see some great podcasters all over, but we don't see enough representation getting the recognition that we should be getting. And I'll start by saying that Amish Country Mets fan puts out great content, great breakdowns, sits in a barn and love watching his stuff. And you hear the pigs in the background, and people can't get enough of it, and he should get a lot more love. Shea and Sons, what Keith does with his brother Key, second to none between the MLB show videos and all the breakdowns with the prospects and breaking down what scores prospect grades means. You could go look on that channel and all the guests that they have. Quality content. And then last but not least, Mr. Subway to Shea. And my guy's on SNY. How is he not getting more love than what he's getting? I have zero idea. But this is why we're here today, to recognize greatness, to recognize Latinos and minorities, period, that are in the community and pushing out great content. And it's a blessing to share the stage with you guys. So, you guys got anything to add to that?
No, yeah, this is a fun night that we're gonna have. So strap in for all the good times that we're gonna have coming to you. Talking Mets, and I love the camaraderie that we have together. I've had Shane Sons on. I've had Amish Country Met on. I've been on Amish Country's Met show with the Interstate Mets, and now being on with you, Baseball Tone. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I want to say something. I'm happy you stuck with it, because I know that you were deciding if you were going to continue doing this. So I'm happy you stuck with it. Do your thing, keep doing it. Now we've talked off air and stuff, and advice and all that. And I'm glad that you're sticking with this. Don't ever give up on that dream. We're all in it together. We all work together. There are a lot of other content creators that we work with as well, and we just keep the community growing, and that's what it's all about.
Definitely. That's much love. It's much love. Amish, man, you got to say something for the people, man. They all love to hear your voice.
Yeah, I'm the quiet one of the group, but no, I appreciate you doing this. It's good to be here with you fellas. Done shows with all of you at this point. I appreciate y'all guys always support and coming on. I'm down to be on any of your shows at any time. You just say the word. I'm in my own little corner over here, hidden in the woods, doing my own crazy thing with the pigs and the animals and everything else. So try to bring a little unique spin to everything. But yeah, man, it's good to celebrate our heritage a little bit while we talk a little Mets ball. So I'm honored to be here with you fellas.
He's the most
And thanks
interesting fan. I was just saying he's the most interesting Met. It's not even I've been saying this shit for like a year now. This man is a Puerto Rican, you know what I'm saying, in the middle of the country, repping the Mets of all teams, breaking it down in that climate with cattle. You know what I'm saying? Like, how gangsta is that? I mean, I don't know. Nobody's doing that. So
You
no
see the
one's ever
buggies in the
gonna.
background?
Yeah, no one will ever copy his swag. No one will ever bite off this man's style. It is literally one of one, and I always have time for one of one stuff. He's the man, bro. Not even a question.
Definitely. And just a side shout out to a couple podcasts to throw out there. Tomas Stewart's Park. Ibby's one of the boys.
Shout out Uruguay. You know what I'm saying?
Shout out Uruguay. We found out Ibby's Uruguay, so he belongs here with us. He's one of us. But that's why he's doing great things, because he's also one of us. You know what I mean? He's representing for the people. So, shout out to Thomas Stewart's Part. The other half of Amish Country on Interstate Mets, CPNY Sports. They do great things with the Interstate Mets Report.
I think he's like
he's what?
He's like a 10 freaking. He's
no way.
Yeah.
I knew he had some stuff on when he talks. You know what I mean? I felt it a little bit. So good for him.
We'll claim it.
And we'll take it for this episode. We'll take it. And then and once again, shout out to Lil Bro Key, second half of Shea and Sons. We know you can't be here. Hearts up. Love the boy,
Key.
man. Maybe next time we could get it going all together. So to get right into Mets baseball, now we got all the fancy stuff out the way. I had a different idea for what we were going to talk about. I want to talk about opinions from every position, starters, bullpen, so forth and so forth. A little bit longer, shoot the shit. Like we're with the boys. But then the Senga news dropped. Mendoza said the arm fatigue. He's kind of shelved at the moment. They're going to see what's going to happen, what's going on. So, in my opinion, I know that Stearns wants to move to a 6-man rotation. So am I alarmed? No. Am I a little scared due to Mets history? Yes. Because at the end of the day, it's such a we've seen this path so many times with so many pictures of it starts with the arm being tired and then it leads to something else. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be the negative Nelly. And the funny thing is I'm the most optimistic Mets fan. A lot of people know. But it's one of those things where I hope he's okay. I hope he's doing good. And I think him having fatigue this early, and I know it's because they're kind of ramping it up and it's just getting started, is just another need to show that we need a 6-man rotation. But we'll start with Amish and work our way around the clock.
So what? I mean, it's obviously not the greatest news, but man, I'm trying not to even think about it because it is way too early to go to freak out mode. Like, I really don't want to go there because this season is long, and if I start freaking out on February, whatever it is, 21st, I ain't gonna last all year. So I'm just hoping for the best. Obviously, you never want to hear, and we were saying it before the show started. Like, they say it's nothing and he's fine, but we're ingrained to hear that and be like, all right, you guys are full of crap because it's happened so many times to us where they go, oh yeah, they're fine. And a week or two later, it's, oh, they're still dealing with this. They're going for an MRI. And then they're missing God knows how many months of the season. And it's just on and on and on and on. So we're conditioned as Met fans to kind of be on high alert and just you go into this dread immediately when you hear this kind of news. So I'm trying to avoid that, trying to keep it calm and be positive. But yeah, it's not the way you want to start the spring, right? We're just getting started, dude. I don't even know has he thrown a bullpen or anything yet? I don't know if he had. I didn't see it, but yeah, already he has arm fatigue. So I don't know. I'm trying, like I said, to stay positive, but it's tough, man. It's tough being a Mets fan.
Yeah. You know what? I have been beaten down. And I'm pretty sure all of us have been beaten down by every year having to deal with Jacob deGrom's arm and injury fatigue, that this has really no effect on me. I don't know. I'm just like, okay. This happens every year. And I'm pretty sure Senga is not going to be the only pitcher that this happens to on this roster. But like Tone said, it is imperative that this team moves to a 6-man rotation. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It has to be a 6-man rotation. And the good thing is the Mets actually have depth this year to do that. So we'll see how they put it all together. But another good thing is that there are a couple of free agents that are still available out there that should keep an eye on. Jordan Montgomery, for one, that I always like to look into. And the longer these guys stay in free agency, I think it's the more that benefits the Mets, because if someone gets hurt or someone is not playing up to par to make this roster, you try to sign a Jordan Montgomery to 1 or 2 years and put him in the rotation. I don't care if he's the first start, if he's the ace or the second or third. We just need 6 arms in this rotation, and that's all I know. So there'll be a lot of emphasis, I'm pretty sure, on a guy like Tyler McGill, who's learning his own version of the split forkball. We'll see what happens. Keith don't want that. It looks like Keith don't want to see Tyler McGill.
Keith is
But
not a McGill guy. Not a McGill guy.
I just got to go through the line, and I feel like he's the first in the line of defense when it comes to depth in this rotation. I mean, you could go to Joey Lucchesi if you want as well. David Peterson's not coming back until halfway through. And then you got the kids, right? You got Christian Scott. You got Dominic Hamill, Mike Vassell. So we'll see how they go with the rotation, but I'm pretty sure we all agree 6-man rotation is imperative.
Real quick, Shane Son's podcast, probably the other half. An important Mets pitcher having an injury by February is just them telling us the season is near. New York Mets Groundhog Day. Spring is here, baby. Spring is here. Go ahead, Keith.
So my soul hasn't recovered from last year. So I'm walking soulless. And I'm talking about last year for Edwin Diaz. Something like what Ant said, when I heard it, I was like, now it's time to start baseball season, because what is a baseball season without somebody on the New York Mets, a ligament exploding? So I know, extreme, I know. But I have a hard time reading that and not like, I read that today, and normally I spend a good 25 minutes on the toilet when I get home. It turned into 45. It was rough. It wasn't the best. That's usually my favorite chair in the house. It was very difficult. My mental state of mind has been swirling. I was listening to soothing Asian music just so I could bring the aura back up in my life, because I just couldn't handle hearing that. I love Senga. I genuinely love Senga. Yeah. This team is so fire because of him really being at the top of the rotation, and the fact that so many people are like, yo, this dude is not an ace. If he's the top of your rotation, the Mets are in trouble. And you hear it over and over, and you're just sitting here like, yo, I want this fucking guy to shut them all up. I want him to have a better year than Yamamoto. I want him to have a better year than Spencer Strider. I want him to bust everybody's ass. And then his arm is all tired. Oh, God, man. It's just a huge, huge bummer. He was going to be the one guy that I was going to make sure I try to get the Citi Field to for all his starts. And it's huge, huge wrench in the stomach. I know it's just reported it's not serious or whatever, but you hear that shit as a Met fan and you're just already all right, when you're going to tell me the truth? You know what I'm saying? That's just how I operate. I hope they tell us, oh, it's a 2 to 3 week thing, but then it's 2 to 3 weeks of torture. You know what I'm saying? Now you're wondering if somebody's going to take a picture of him at spring training walking around. Oh, look at his arm. He's holding his arm. Oh, is he okay? Whatever. It turns into a nut fest with Met fans, and it's very stressful. And Amish said it best. Yo, it's fucking February. I don't want to tap out by March. It's true. And it's just as a Met fan, how could you not just have your anxiety through the roof? I wear my emotions on my sleeve sometimes, maybe to a fault. I try not to do the really crazy stuff. That's why today when I heard the news, I didn't really kind of go crazy online. I kind of did it to myself at home, but it's hard being a Met fan, bro. It's fun, but it's hard. It's fun, but it's really, really hard sometimes. But I hope homeboy's okay. I hope it's just, sometimes when you have fatigue, it's just, maybe just he revved up a bit too soon. You know what I'm saying? And I know they wanted to be delicate with him. So positive vibes. Wink, wink,
Positive vibes indeed, and that's all we have in the off season, spring training until the season actually starts. So I want to bring up here. I know Ant had mentioned that there are free agents. So David Rios made a comment, said if he's hurt, you have to give Snell a 2-year deal. So I'm going to start by saying that I am, for first of all, for the reports of what Snell wants and what the Yankees have offered him, and he still hasn't accepted. I'm just not a fan of his game. I've never been a fan of his game. People could throw the 2 Cy Youngs at me all they want. I think last year, perfect example of it was like the right place, the right time, things happen for him. 87% of the time he got out of jams. The league average was 71%. The guy had a FIP of close to 4, if I'm not mistaken, but a 2.25 ERA. You know what I mean? And the numbers were a little off, but just saying in general, his defense saved him a lot, and that's been his career. And if you look outside his 2 Cy Young years, he's a great strikeout pitcher, but he'll walk a ballpark and he'll get rattled, he'll get hit around, and he just projects similar to a Jordan Montgomery, in my opinion, maybe with a little better stuff. So now the question is, and we're going to play make believe GM. Being that Boris is driving this price down for everybody, from what it feels like at this point, I'm a big proponent of giving a Jordan Montgomery a 1+1 type deal. Give him a high AAV on a 1-year deal. Says here, it didn't work out for you this year. You could try it again next year, a la Carlos Correa a couple years ago with the Minnesota Twins when he got the 3 years and every year was an option, because that seems to be the way the world is going in baseball. We just seen Wandy Peralta sign for 4 years and every year is an option outside of I think every other 4 years is an option year for him, a player option. So what's your opinion on Jordan Montgomery, Blake Snell, or maybe if there's somebody else you might think in mind that could maybe in the last minute fit this rotation? Let's start with you, Keith.
I'm a big fan of both. I want to be clear. I do like Blake Snell. I do know what Blake Snell is, so I don't like to masquerade around the fact that he can be very misleading. He's a very good pitcher, though. I don't want to downgrade him. He's done a lot of good in Major League Baseball with his resume. But he's also very prone to suffer from his own success, if that makes any sense. So I'm very aware of that. Jordan Montgomery, I feel like he is the best definition of a middle rotation guy who will really go do the dirty work. You know what I'm saying? He is a guy that I feel like likes the big moment. You know what I'm saying? And I think every time I've seen him in the big moment, he's done enough to get the job done. So I do like that about him. I believe, he is somewhat more prone to pitch in a big market than Blake Snell, with all due respect to Blake Snell, because I've seen it. And he seems like a guy that doesn't phase in big moments, a la the World Series. There's other guys out there, like you mentioned. Mike Clevenger's out there. I might be forgetting a few other guys, but there's guys out there, nothing too notable, nothing to really ring home about. But, there's also the trade market. Who knows? I necessarily don't want to do a trade at this point. I felt like everything was kind of just set, really was okay with everything how it was. If I had to go after somebody, personally, me and my brother have talked about this. The reason why I probably am inclined to pick Blake Snell, which is a little bit of a surprise, as much as I do like Jordan Montgomery, is I feel like Jordan Montgomery it's hard. To me, it's hard to get a player. I know money comes into play. But it's hard for me to tell a player, hey, go from the World Series champions to a project, respectfully. A fun project, really cool project. Best project, I think, in baseball, respectfully, to other teams. And I think that is very on the mental state of minds for pitchers. Like my brother talks about all the time, the mental, is a big deal with these guys. Not saying he won't perform, not saying he won't do his thing. I just feel like I don't think that's a very realistic situation. The Blake Snell thing, I know the qualifying offer screws us. I get it. And I don't really want to sign him. But the reason why I would go after him, because I legit think it could be a 1-year deal. I literally think it's almost to a point wherever he signs, it might be that Correa thing. I actually really feel that way. So honestly, I don't want to sign nobody. I want Kodai Senga. I don't want to get none of these guys. Even before that, I know I'm crazy. We need pitching, whatever. Mike Vassell, Christian Scott, Jose Blue, all those guys. I am so okay with watching these guys pitch. You know why? Because those are our guys. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather live and die with our guys, and that's it. That's just where I'm at. I don't expect to win a World Series this year, but you know what? Hell, if we hit lightning in a bottle and it's with our guys, then even better. So I would prefer to sign none of them, respectfully. That's just my take.
Fair enough. And
Tone, what were the stats? Can you repeat the stats for Blake Snell that you mentioned?
yeah, so last year I believe his FIP was closer to a 4. His fielding and independent percentages. I know his ERA was sub 2.4. I know his strikeouts were around 12 per game, between 11 12 per game. Walk rate was at around 5. And his whip was normal. I think it was around like a 1.1 or something like that, a 1.2.
And you mentioned him getting in and out of jams. That
Yeah,
percentage.
yeah. So the percentage that I read, and I've been trying to look it up, but I know it was over. So I'll put it like this: it was over 82% of him getting out of the jams, and the league average was 71%.
You know what the problem is with that? As great a stat as that is, he gets into too many jams. That's his problem. And I saw that firsthand in game 2 of the wild card series. I was there. Every inning he was in a jam. He didn't get past the 4th, 5th inning. And that's something that has been with his career his whole life. And I don't know if he could really handle New York. He wants to come here. He wants to be with a Yankee, but I don't really know how well he can handle pitching in New York. I feel like Marcus Stroman can handle pitching in New York better than he can. I rather go Jordan Montgomery. I think he said it in somewhere in these thing. He said Monty pitched in New York and became better since leaving, reliable, and is not another lefty on the staff. So that's where I'm going. I'm going Jordan Montgomery. He's proven that he could pitch in the postseason. He's proven that he could pitch in New York. And that's a big thing for me when signing players. Can they play in New York? It seems that a lot of the players that can, the Mets don't retain and they go off and they play better elsewhere. So I want to do my best to bring in players that can hack it here in the city and play well. So I would go with Jordan Montgomery. If you go with Blake Snell, he's obviously going to become the de facto ace, and he's just not an ace to me. He's a good 2, good 3. I know he's got the 2 Cy Youngs, but he's not an ace to me. Jordan Montgomery, neither is an ace, but I don't expect that from him. When you sign Blake Snell, you're expecting Cy Young ace stuff now from him, because that's the deal you're giving him. If you give him some kind of big deal, which I know the Mets won't, but he's going to get a lot of money either way, whether it's a 1, 2 year, 5 year, 6 year deal. I'm going Jordan Montgomery all day on that. But, I am not opposed to what Keith said in seeing our own players get their opportunity. We saw it in September. Jose Buto pitched very well. McGill pitched good. Peterson pitched okay. Let those guys cook, and let's see what we got with them. And then the next crop, which is Christian Scott, Vassell, Hamill, maybe it'll be their turn soon enough. So I'm all in with what Keith said. And if we're not signing Jordan Montgomery, I am ready to ride it out with our group, the crew we have.
Good, almost.
Yeah, so I'm not a Blake Snell guy at all. Like, I'd rather, like the fella said, I'd rather just roll with what we got. My biggest thing with Blake Snell is outside of his 2 Cy Young Award years, he's pitched career high 129 innings pitched. The 2 Cy Young Award years, he pitched 180 innings. Every other year, he hasn't touched 130. ERAs outside of those 2 years, 4.04, 4.24, 3.24, 4.20, 3.38. He wants to get paid like he's some sort of stud ace pitcher, but he's not. He had 2 phenomenal seasons But outside of that, he's just a mid pitcher. He's not bad, but he's not anything special. Um, and to me, like for the money he's asking for, I'm out. Like I'm just out on that dude. Monty, listen, if the price is right, so to speak, I guess I'd go there. But and I like the fact, like others said, he's pitched in New York. He knows what it's like. Obviously, he can pitch on the big stage. He won a World Series. Um, I like that in the dude. But at the end of the day, man, if we're stuck and we're riding this out, and Senga, for God forbid, is actually hurt, and it's serious, like let's just see what we got with these kids. Screw it, man. It's one of those years where we're not all in. Like we know that, if you're being honest with yourself, we're trying to make the playoffs on a wild card spot, which I think can happen. But we're not trying to win a World Series here. I don't think, not this year. I mean, that's not to say things can't change either, right? Like you can come July, things are going well. You add some pieces, you can make a run. Nobody expected the 2015 Mets to sniff a World Series. They go and pick up Yoenis Cespedes, and they just went on a freaking tear. So things happen, crazy things happen, right? But yeah, no, I'd rather just ride with the kids. Let's see what they got, throw them in the fire, and hopefully they prove that they can carry this team for the future. And then that helps you too, because then you don't have a question mark next year. 2025, all right, Christian Scott is that dude. Mike Vassell, he is a back of the rotation guy. But or if again, God forbid, if it's not the case, then shit, we need to go find more pitching, because Christian Scott sadly didn't have it. Mike Vassell, not that great. And those aren't the only two dudes, but you get where I'm going. So yeah, I'd rather just ride with what we got. But if I'm picking between Snell and Monty, give me Monty all day. I just I don't like his face. I don't like the dude. I don't want anything to do with Blake Snell.
No, I hear you, and you guys bring up all good points. And shout out to, I believe it was David Rios, for asking that or saying if he's hurt, maybe to sign him. Good talking point. Shout out to the chat. We're fluctuating between 40 and 50 guests, wherever you are. Like, subscribe onto Shea and Sons, Subway to Shea, Amish Country Mets Fan, and Mets Trucker podcast, all on YouTube. If you follow on Twitter, we all post Mets content along with other stuff. But yeah, so with that said,
can I just say one more thing to bounce off the rotation before we let go? Because Nelson brought up a good point. He brought up the 2015 Mets, and the most important thing that I take out of that rotation, it's not DeGrom, it's not Syndergaard. They all had great season. The kids had great season. Harvey, the anchor of that rotation was Bartolo Colon, who gave that team innings. This rotation, if they can give 5 to 6 innings a night, then you're in good standing, because you're not overworking the bullpen, which is going to be a open door policy, it seems like, with all the people we brought in. So I just wanted to make that kind of little bit of comparison. If we could get these guys to pitch 5, 6 innings, I think they're in a good standing, even if that's, with Kodai Senga pitching once every 6th day.
So that segues into kind of what I wanted this night to be about before the Senga news. Is this is also, besides us coming together, spring training is upon us. Saturday is our first spring training game. So I wanted to just go between positions, or bulk positions, and see how we feel. So we'll segue into starting pitching. For me, we have Luis Severino, who is a question mark till he's not a question mark. Show Manaea, I am a huge fan of ever since his Oakland days. I know he faltered in San Francisco a little bit, but the second half of last year was one of the top 5 pitchers in the second half. Developed what did he add? About 4 to 5 miles per hour on his fastball. Developed a sweeper, stuff he never had at age 30. You only get better from that. If you develop that at that age, you only get better. And I just want to say, watching all this driveline baseball stuff, shout out to the pitching labs all over the place, because it does work. pitching labs do work, and Minaya is living proof of that. And I think we could talk about Mets staff players who have kind of shown to be proof of that. But I expect Minaya to continue into that. Quintana, if Quintana's fully healthy, another guy that'll eat innings, is another guy that'll give you strong outings. And I feel like we don't talk enough about Adrian Hauser. And I know that's because we were kind of looking at, oh, who is he? And we don't kind of know what he is. I think we knew more about Tyrone Taylor in the trade than we did Adrian Hauser. But if you look at Adrian Hauser's career, he's nothing but solid. I think outside of a couple, maybe one season, I think he's been around for a little bit, but outside of one season, he's been what you expect him to be. You know, he's a guy that could go 10-10 with like a 3.5 to a 4.2 ERA. And these are the type of things that you need in consistency and consistent pitching staffs. Is you need guys that you know what they're going to give you, and they're going to keep you in games. So if the bats, like for example, like with Scherzer when he was here, we experienced highs and lows, right? Depending on the game, depending on the flavor of how it worked. There's certain pitches where certain games, like with anything, highs and lows. And the thing about a quality season is consistency. Consistency from game 1 to game 162. And Hauser has shown a career of doing that. Sean Manaea has shown a career of doing that outside of San Francisco. Luis Severino, we don't know. Kodai Senga, knock on wood, everything is good. He continues what he did from last year. That's an ace in my book. I'm perfectly fine with that. And the rest of the starting pitching staff is is a little toss up if I missed anybody. But let me know you guys' thoughts on the starting pitching staff. And we'll start with you since you led us into this one.
Yeah, I wanted Sevy from the start of free agency. If there was a reclamation project or an if that I wanted to take a chance on, it was Luis Severino. I thought he pitched very well in his time with the Yankees. I know towards the end, the injuries and the tipping of the pitches, but if there was anyone you want to unlock potential out of, it was going to be Luis Severino. And I think he'll have that type of bounce back year. Sean Manaea, the tribal chief, as Keith and I like to say, he pitched very well in Oakland. People forget his time in Oakland. And Adrian Hauser, like it's CP says here, Mr. Consistent. My comp for him is Rick Reed. If he can give us that Rick Reed type, bulldog 11-5 with the 3.99 ERA, I think that's going to be a very solid trade when we look back at David Stern's first year. That's going to be a very solid trade. So I'm kind of excited to see what this rotation can do. Obviously, Quintana's another consistent pitcher. I mean, he pitched consistent ever since he came back from injury mid-season. What was it? Only giving up 3 runs a game. I mean, we were like dying for that after seeing the first half of the season. And hopefully Senga is healthy. And I agree with Keith, man. I just want to see more Senga. I got to see him twice last season, pitched very well, and he is so entertaining, man. He just looks like he loves being a New York Met, and that's what I want from my pitchers, is to love playing here and to give their all. And I'm very excited to see what this rotation could do. There are ifs, but there were ifs when we had DeGrom and Scherzer, when we had Scherzer and Verlander. Those were still ifs, even though they had the track record. They were old and we didn't know, but let's see what we could do with these guys and what Driveline does. Maybe it'll turn it around. Maybe we're in for a season that we weren't expected in a good way.
Yeah, and guys, for the chat, anybody listening, wherever you are, that Rick Reed comparison was gold. Pure gold. If you ever question anything about what type of Mets quality we have fandom going on, Rick Reed comparison to Adrian Hauser in the year 2024. Oh my God, that pure gold right there. But real quick to go to the chat before we continue. Guy AP said the game has moved to where you need a reliable 7 to 8 arms to start. McGill, Peterson, Lucchesi, etc. are going to play a pivotal role stepping in when needed. Agreed. So Keith, what are your opinions on the starters?
So we got Sevy on a 1-year deal. Got Manaea on a 2-year deal, but with an option. Got Quintana on his last year. You got Adrian Hauser, who's in his last year of arbitration. It's 4 guys right there, right? I'm not mentioning McGill. I'm not mentioning Lucchesi. I'm not mentioning Budo. I'm not mentioning Mike Vassell. I'm not going to mention Kodai because we don't know what's going on with those. But that's 4 guys that got to pitch for money. At the end of the day, those 4 guys got to make sure that they got to perform on this team this year. These are prove-it situations. I love what a lot of these guys are doing with Driveline. I love it. I love the aspect of them being in a 6-man rotation to help them elevate their game with more rest. But they are pitching for a future in this league, and I think that does appeal to what our situation currently is. I am very confident in knowing that out of the 4, 2 of those guys are going to pop off. I don't know who, but 2 of those guys will pop off. The other 2, if they're above water, I'm perfectly okay with that. Last year overall, if you take the league average, WHIP and ERA went up. Why? Rule changes. Guys were running more, bases got bigger. Everything changed. The landscape of baseball changed. I've said this ad nauseum. Guys who we thought were certain players, their prototypes, completely altered because just a few minor tweaks, Major League Baseball completely changed. So I think now we're going into spring training without the World Baseball Classic, interrupting guys traveling and being with the team. That helps us. We are a better prepared team because, what David Stern has provided with the pitching lab. My personal opinion, I have optimism with caution. The thing about this team personally is going to be more aligned with the bullpen. And I don't want to segue to that because I know we're going to get to Nelson, but we don't really need these guys to go 8 innings every outing. We don't. The thing is that last year, we would start the game off losing and have to play catch up. You know what I'm saying? If we can just maintain the game to about the 5th or 6th inning, I think this year, more surprisingly, the bullpen will surprise us more than the rotation. I don't want to bring up the bullpen because we are talking about the starters, but that's all just 4 guys, not even mentioning another 4 additions that could be added to the rotation. So even though Senga, the situation's up in the air, there's depth, there's options. We didn't have that last year. And again, I'm going to mention two last points. Last year, Senga was considered the 3rd option, and he ended up being the best pitcher on the team. So everybody who tells me, oh, Senga, he can't lead a rotation. Well, he did it last year as a rookie, first time in this country. So let's put that to bed. And the last point is that to Senga, last point on him, I've said it last year, he loves to be here. And I want everyone else to have that feeling. If that trickles down when you love where you work, especially guys who are trying to pitch for money, they will perform.
Fair enough. Amish, go ahead.
Yeah, man. Well, first off, I gotta say that Rick Reed name drop that made my loins tingle. The Mets, the '90s Mets are like, that's like my heart. Like that's my 99, 98, even 97. Like I love those teams. I love those teams almost more than the 2000 team that made the World Series. So yeah, anytime you drop a name like that, that makes my heart pitter patter. So that was amazing. But I mean, the guy said most of what needs to be said about the guys in the rotation. Like it is a lot of what ifs. It is a lot of relying on health. It is just you're almost it's hope, right? We have a friend that talks about hope all the time and how hope is not a strategy, but we're kind of hoping right with this one, right? So I think the thing is there are a lot of what ifs, but what if the ifs aren't all negatives? We always go to the negative, but
Like
what
that.
if Severino does bounce back? What if Quintana continues to pitch like he did when he was finally healthy last year? What if hopefully Senga is healthy and he just builds on last year instead
Hell
of
yeah.
regressing?
Hell yeah.
We just immediately think, oh, he's going to regress. He's going to have the second sophomore slump. But maybe not. Maybe what if this is finally the Mets year, right? I mean, we're for it forever, but it can happen. I mean, that's probably not the best way to go with your debut into the season. But I mean, to me, that's better than automatically just assuming everything's going to suck. Everybody's going to be hurt. And the Mets are a 70-win team. Like, why watch if that's how I'm going to go into the season? Hauser, like you guys said, the dude, he's not anything special, but he is consistent. He's gonna give you that low 4 ERA. Gonna take the mound, give you 5 or 6 innings. He's not gonna really surprise you, and that's not a bad thing. We need that. We need guys that are consistent. What I can't tell you, what I don't want to see, what I'm tired of seeing, Tyler McGill. I've had enough. I know that might be a hot take for some people. I don't need to see you anymore, brother. Like, I don't care what they do with him. They can hide him in the bullpen. They can send him to Syracuse. They can send him anywhere. I just don't want to see that man in the rotation.
No love for the sport, the American sport. No,
I got no for none of that. I've seen what I need to see out of Tyler McGill. He's it. He's done. He's cooked. Same for David Peterson. I don't know when he's coming back. I don't want to see you either. I've seen enough. Give me some of these other brothers. Show me more of Jose Budo. Show me Mike Vassell. Show me Joey Lucchesi, for that matter. I'm not even a Lucchesi guy, but I'd rather see him more than McGill and Peterson. Like I said, I know not everybody's going to agree with that. I know there's some people out there that still think Tyler McGill's got something. I'm not one of them. I hope he proves me wrong. Listen, I'm not one of those guys where if I don't like a Met, I'm going to root against them. I'm rooting for them. I want to see them succeed. I want to see them prove me wrong because I'm the first one to tell you if I'm wrong. But so far, man, I went to Pittsburgh and I booed the shit out of that dude last year. He stunk, like just absolutely stunk. And it's like burned in my memory. Like, I don't know why that one start annoyed me. Maybe it's because the Mets were losing like 12-0 by the time I left that game. It was horrible. But yeah, I'm done with that dude. But outside of that, I think we got something with this rotation. And I think, like you said, I'm sure we'll talk about the bullpen, but that's going to be a big help. I think the bullpen where it was I don't know what the word, detriment last year, I think it can be a very much a positive this year. So that's where I'm at.
And segueing into that, of course,
I got
as
a
we go
question
down
real quick, Tony. You guys think that this will be the third year in a row McGill is the opening day starter? It's possible now.
Yeah, that is
You
possible. I was
imagine?
thinking about that actually.
Yeah.
It's earlier
He's
today.
opening on spring training, right? He's opening
That's
Saturday.
what I'm saying. It'll be 3 straight years of Tyler
I hope that shit
But
gets
he's
rained
dominant
out.
though. He's
snowed out.
dominant on opening day.
Yeah, no, he's great opening day.
And then after that, it's
pointing
just
that
like
out.
he's
Yeah.
good in April, right? We get a nice little dominant DeGrom in April from McGill,
Mhm.
and then after that,
To be fair, Mets opening day is probably the best thing walking
Our
in any
World
sport.
Series?
So World Series, like if it was just opening day, oh my God, we be talking 28 championships right
we
now.
need to
It's
lose
crazy.
opening day. We need to lose.
Right? Let's
I'm
switch it
down.
up a little bit.
Down to lose
Yeah,
opening
switch
day. I'm totally down.
I'm going there this year. We can't lose this year.
I don't know. You might have to take an L for the team, so we have a better season. I don't know, but with that said, going into the bullpen and all that good stuff. Opening day champs, like AP says, yes, opening day champs as always feel good. We get that one, you're like, yes, this is it, and then what is it? April happens, May happens, then June comes, and you're like, oh, okay, it's over.
That's the worst one.
But with that said, so we do segue into the bullpen, and let me be the first one to say that I really, really, really like this bullpen. I really do. Like everything that I've ever preached, whether it's been on YouTube, Twitter, talking to people, the bullpen is such a volatile thing in baseball. There is no such thing as a consistent bullpen. It really isn't. There's always guys. You might have a back end guy that's a consistent, like a Diaz, a Hader, volatile, Devin Williams, stuff like that. But the reality is, everybody in between is kind of a crapshoot. That's why these guys don't get these 4, 5, 6-year deals. That's why you got a guy like Wandy Peralta getting a 4-year deal with a bunch of opt-outs because he wants to try and cash in on closing for the Padres now. You know what I mean? He wasn't going to close here. That was a big reason why he didn't come here. So, with that being said, when we look at it, we have Diaz back. So I just want to throw a stat out there. I don't know what anybody considers a blown save. Everybody has a different definition. But last year, at 75 wins, the Mets had 19 blown saves. 19 blown saves. So if you want to define that as a point in the game where the bullpen gave up the lead, it was 19 of them.
Thank you,
They
Drew
were near
Smith.
the. Thank you, Drew
Sorry,
Smith.
sorry, I had to get that out.
No. Thank you, Drew Smith, for real. And it was near the top, and we saw Adam Ottavino get thrown into situations he doesn't belong in. We saw Brooks Raley get overworked that in a situation he doesn't belong in because Diaz went down. But that's 19 blown saves. If we had 10 of those, we're in the playoffs, 85 wins. So when it comes to this here, you look at the names we got. First of all, you know the I can never say his name. Fuji. I'm gonna just say Fuji, Fujinami, right?
You said it right. You said it good.
Oh wow, look at me. Hey, one for the Puerto Rican guys. But anyway, so Fujinami is a guy who hits 104 on the radar. He has to find his control. You know, he was in a very bad situation in Oakland when he got signed to be a starter. And nobody survives in Oakland. He went to Baltimore. We've seen him clean it up, but he did have his struggles, which happens with Japanese players. We got lucky with Senga, but even Senga in the beginning struggled. You know what I mean? And that's a credit to the Mets pitching staff, pitching coach Hafner and company for settling down and getting him adjusted to the American game with a different mound and all these things. So what Fuji has a chance to do now is being with Senga is understanding the differences, seeing what Senga did to make the adjustments that he made, and maybe he can implement that in his game. A big name that I really look at and I'm a fan of is Jorge Lopez. Yes, I understand what he had last year going on. It wasn't the best, but 2022 shows you the potential you have and what he can be. He, I don't know if people know his situation as far as, his family, but he does have a little bit rougher. So moving around and getting traded midseason isn't as easy on him. And as we've seen with Lucas Giolito and some of these guys who have life going on outside of baseball, that affects your game. And if you could bring Jorge Lopez back to a resemblance of what it was in Baltimore as an eighth inning guy, like that's a dangerous dude. He was an all-star. People forget that he was an all-star. You know what I mean? So now you look at the Brooks Raley. Now he doesn't have to come in those late innings to replace a Diaz because they need to find a closer by committee. Jake Dykman, whatever he had in with Tampa, hopefully he brings that over and he doesn't bring over the White Sox version where he was throwing a 6+ ERA. But we're gonna keep it on the positivity train that he found something in Tampa, bring it to New York. So, I'm gonna let you guys talk on the rest of the bullpen, but I really am a big fan of the moves that Stearns has made. Yes, could there have been other bullpen moves? There could always be bullpen moves. You know what I mean? The Neris move, but who's to say, for example, volatility-wise, Neris doesn't revert back to his Philly ways coming in New York? Who's to say that? Then everybody, you got egg on your face. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, Peralta, we all wanted Peralta, but Peralta wanted to close. That's why he went to San Diego. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, this team, what I seen this bullpen become is a vision. Is a vision of what Stearns wants it to be. And when that vision comes together, you're not just signing guys to sign guys. To me, that's a winning recipe because you have a mentality, you have a game plan, and as much as people, I know it's not football or whatever, where you have like action, but there is game plans in baseball. You know what I mean? And when you have it consistent through pitches, like, okay, in this situation, we got this, we got the fastball sweeper guy, and I even shout out Ottavino with the off-speed stuff. He's the one guy who has some nasty off-speed stuff. And then you have the wild cards like Johan Ramirez, Yaxel Rios, and the list goes on and on. But I'll let you guys go ahead and talk about the bullpen. Amish, you can take it.
Yeah, man. Like you, I love what Stearns did with this bullpen. Like you made an excellent point. Bullpens are just volatile year to year. It's very rare to see the back end, the closers, the setup guys, they tend to have consistent years for the most part. But everyone else, you can have a guy throw to a 2 ERA, the next year he's a bum. So taking chances on these guys with live arms and that fastball sweeper slider combo, I'm all about it. I mean, we got so many options out of the pen. Not everybody's gonna work out. We know that, right? But now we got outside of our normal cast of Diaz and Ottavino and Smith and Rayleigh, and God, I wish we could just throw Smith out of there, but face it, he's probably going to be a part of the, at least in the beginning. But we got that Michael Tonkin, we got crackhead Phil Bickford, we got Jake Diekman, we got Fujinami, we got Johan Ramirez, we got Josh Walker, we got Sean Reed Foley still in the mix, we got Yaxel Rios. It's just a line of guys that they're all trying to prove it. They're all trying to win a job. Like, I like that competition out of in spring training in the bullpen. Like, I want to see these guys push each other, and maybe we find that diamond in the rough or two. You never know. And there's some couple of guys in the minors to keep an eye on that could help the pen this year too. So I feel like if there's one thing I was confident in David Stearns with, he's consistently built a good bullpen year to year in Milwaukee. And I feel like he knows what he's doing with that, and he's going to do it here too. I don't know. Maybe people say I'm too optimistic, blind optimism, but I really think that David Stearns, at the very least, when it comes to the bullpen, he knows the dude cooks. He knows what he's doing. So I feel like the bullpen is going to end up being very solid, and it's going to help us win. I mean, you said it. How many was it? 19 blown saves last year?
19 blow saves. Yeah.
I mean, if we could improve that by take away 9 of those, you're already like in huge, much better shape. So, I mean, hopefully Diaz doesn't. I'm a little afraid he's going to push himself a little too much. We've already heard a little bit of whispers about him, like almost being a little too amped up. Like, I need him to chill. I need him to slow his roll and take it easy and not. Don't hurt yourself, brother. We need you for 162. We don't need you to like leave it all out there in spring. So just need him to chill a little bit, ease into it. I think Otto can bounce back. Not that he really wasn't that horrible last year. It's just I think when the dude lets a guy get on base and they're automatically on second, like that just it just brings bad memories. And like that's all anybody remembers from dude is that guys on first might as well be a double because they're stealing second base. So if he can work on not walking so many guys, I don't think he's ever going to pitch quicker. So if guys get on base, they're going to steal on him. Let's face it. But hopefully he can improve. Like I said, have no faith in Smith, but everybody else, I think we got something. We're cooking with the pen. So this. I don't know. I'm optimistic. That's all I can say.
Yeah, definitely. And I like an Ottavino it's funny because if you look at his career, he pitched his best in Colorado, and that's a hard place to pitch. You know what I mean? And he's had it, and then the year before last he was good, but I just feel like when you put him in those high leverage situations, it's such a crapshoot. You know what I mean? He's more of a 7th inning guy or a change of pace guy if you want to set him between like a Fuji and a Diaz, you know, just to throw guys off with his off speed stuff. But yeah, I'm always a big fan of Ottavino in that slider, and I know that holding guys on is his worst attribute. I think I saw a stat today. I forgot who posted it. 341st out of 342nd at holding runners on. It might have been CP. If that was you, shout out to you. If it wasn't, I'm sorry, but take the credit anyway. But yeah. But and what's your thoughts on the bullpen?
Yeah, I didn't even mind them re-signing Ottavino, especially where at the bullpen was at the time. I thought, yeah, on the deal that they gave him, fine. He'll be going back to the 7th, 8th inning anyway with Diaz back. We know bullpens are a crapshoot outside of your, top line closers like Edwin Diaz. But Nelson brought up a good point that David Stearns has a track record of putting together solid bullpens, and that's very important. So I am coming into this with the utmost trust that he knows what he's doing in putting this group together. And I don't know if this point was brought up, but the bullpen coach that was brought in has worked with some of these players, especially during the WBC for Team Puerto Rico And let's not act like that's not high leverage situations. I think every inning in the WBC, whether you like it or not,
Preach.
every inning is
Preach.
a high leverage inning. I mean, they had the crowds out in Miami full to the max there. Those games are important to those players, whether you like it or not, and those are big situations. And the bullpen coach I can't remember his name, so I apologize for that, but he's worked with Lopez. I think he's worked with Rios or Ramirez. I don't remember who else, but
Yaxel, he's with Yaxel.
Edwin Diaz was untouchable during that time there before he hurt his leg, and that's a key there for those guys to have that backing from that bullpen coach who had them at their best in high leverage situations. So look forward to seeing, like you said, a Jorge Lopez in there, Rios, Ramirez. Look forward to seeing those guys throwing it and chopping it up in the bullpen. Everything was strategic that was done this offseason. We may not have got the, top line free agent, but the big free agent signing that the Mets made this season was bringing in David Stearns to let him put his vision on this team. And you're going to see that with the bullpen. And I think it was before I go off to Keith, I think it was
Jose Rosado.
Jose Rosado's the bullpen coach?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, Cheo Rosado is the nickname,
Yeah, MEZBX is saying that this is a time for Hefner to prove his worth as a pitching coach. It is. They basically wiped everyone outside of Senga and Quintana in the rotation out, and most of the bullpen outside of Smith and Ottavino and Rayleigh, and there's a whole new crop here. So Hefner, this is a big deal for Hefner to get this right this time around. We're going to see what Hefner's made of come the season. And one other thing that I like before I stop is I always preach to having two lefties in the bullpen, and we're finally getting that. Diekman, Rayleigh, so Rayleigh doesn't have to, spend his time every game coming in to come out and get a lefty. We have two guys to split that up with. So I'm very optimistic, like the rest of you guys with the bullpen. I'm very interested in seeing where this is going.
Yeah, definitely. And just to throw it out there, I know we said crackhead Bickford. Under Hefner's tutelage and the pitching lab, which I think had a big effect in the last month of last season, he had a .84 ERA in about 11 or 12 games. Just so it goes to show you that, maybe there is some magic, and maybe the first half things just look so bad because there was other reasons. But go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, he was a better Met than a Dodger. A lot of people just choose to remember the fact that he looks like a crackhead rather than his stats, but we're neither here nor there. So we have swingmen. Maybe one day we'll see McGill in the bullpen where I think he's best suited. Lucchesi, swingman, lefty. Budo, swingman. You have Max Kranick, who we also acquired this offseason. Then you got some of the kids who will probably pop up. We don't know if they're always going to start. Like a guy like Dom Hamill. He's, shout out Boricua. He is an ideal swingman, based on what you read with the scouting reports. Vassell, Christian Scott, obviously they're starters, but they could be eased in. So there you go. That's leverage right there. Those are innings right there. Then you got true relievers. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think Justin Jarvis is a starter, so I'm not going to name him. But we have, a guy we haven't named, Michael Tonkin. We got the guy who has been it feels like he's been a Met for 40 years. Sean Reed Foley's back apparently. Grant Harwig, he made some appearances last year. Josh Walker, another lefty. Reed Garrett will be showing some, bullpen appearances this season. Johan Ramirez, who we acquired. Austin Adams, Cole Sulser, Yaxel Rios, who I'm very in love with. Chad Smith, Daddy Young, Cam Robinson, Nate Lavander, Eric Orizi, and a lot of people love Paul Gervais, if I'm saying that right, but there is a gluttony of arms that David Stearns can really, really grow and pick and choose. A lot of options here. A lot of guys who can be, used in different ways, different methods. And this is why, I have a lot more optimism about the offseason than what some may think, because you sit there and you sign Hector Neris, right? That doesn't then right there, you probably can't bring in a lot of these, minor league deals or cheaper deals. You know what I'm saying? You can't find the funds for it, especially with the situation with the Mets. In my opinion, love the fact that he went for depth because that's a good building block, and a lot of it is a lot of guys who can find themselves. Nelson says it all the time. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to throw shit on the wall to see if it sticks. That shit actually applies to the Mets bullpen. You know what I'm saying? There is absolute reason to sit here and say some of these guys might pop off. I fell in love with Yaxiel Rios last year when he was with Team Puerto Rico. He was actually in the Braves farm system, I think, before he went to Oakland. And I saw plenty of movement, arm side action, glove side action. It was absolutely incredible to see. And that has a lot to do with the bullpen coach, like my man Ant mentioned. Another thing, too, to kind of like really get into the in-depth part of this is about 80% of these guys are throwing sweepers. This is like a new wave of baseball. A lot of guys are implementing, instead of a slider, a sweeper. This is going to be beautiful for Citi Field because Citi Field is a pitcher's ballpark. And if we can turn into a ground ball pitching rotation, bullpen, everybody turns into ground ball pitchers and everything like that, then it falls in line with run prevention. You know what I'm saying? Everything that this man has been preaching. It's been in front of us the whole time. It hasn't been like mysterious, like with other organizations. What are we doing? Why is this? But no, it's literally, he's been forefront with every single move he's done. He hasn't lied to nobody. And when you have a ton of pitchers working on similar crafts with guys with different velocities, guys with different arm slots, guys with different grips, guys with different approaches and different innings, you're talking about like, you're going to have the other team on their heels. You know what I'm saying? You at that level, there's plenty of awesome Major League Baseball hitters say you got to go up there with an approach. Well, I'm going to go up there with an approach thinking Ottavito's coming in. Well, you know what? No, we're going to take him out. We're going to put in, I don't know, Jorge Lopez, who I didn't even mention, by the way. Now I'm like, shit, my approach got to change because I just went from Ottavino, who's throwing a lot of off-speed stuff with major arm action, to Jorge Lopez, who now the uptick in velocity is coming. Now I have to adjust. You know what I'm saying? And there is a way to move the chess pieces on the board that was not available last year for Buck Showalter and the Mets. Now I see a lot more of a good enough collection of a good collection of talent to be presented in different scenarios, not the same one. I didn't even mention Drew Smith because obviously he doesn't need worth mentioning, but if anybody needs this fucking lab, it's him. You know what I'm saying? If anything comes from this lab, is Drew Smith from before he met, the Tinder girls on the middle of the mound a few years ago. You know what I'm saying? Then we are cooking. Nobody could tell me nothing about this pitching lab. So I just feel like there is, like you said, Tone, there's game plans in baseball. I feel like there's game plans every inning. There's a game plans for every at bat. There's game plans for every single pitch. You know what I'm saying? This is why I love our catcher, because I think he knows that. You know what I'm saying? I just personally feel like these guys have to really, really believe in what this man is preaching and what the coaches down there are doing. And I really think they are, because we opened the door for those guys. I don't think there's another organization out there that did what we did with our bullpen from major league level to AAA and touching AA. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that breeds competition all the way down. These kids want to come up. Yeah, we all want them up. Got to earn it now. Got to earn it. Where's your spot? That spot is filled. Oh, well, too bad. Got to earn it. And that's going to be a really good thing to see with this Mets team.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like, think about it being a batter on the opposing team. When you look at a bullpen, you see Fuji warming up next to Ottavino, but you don't know who you're gonna get. And then as a manager on the other team, you're like, damn, all right, who hits the slider better? Who can hit the who sees a fastball better? And now you got a game plan, but you don't know what the Mets are gonna do because you got to play off of that. You know what I mean? There's just so many variables with this bullpen that people. I think if there's one thing, and this is why I'm really high on the Mets this year, because to me it's essentially the same bats coming back. Like, this bullpen just has a whole new look to it, and it really has me excited to watch late inning baseball again. So If anybody wants to add to the bullpen, and then go ahead if anybody got anything, and then we'll talk a little bit of lineup.
I will say this too. This is a weird thing, but this is me. You guys watch my shit. I find the most weirdest shit to pluck out of thin air. There's a lot more day games, right?
Yeah.
So now relievers are gonna play a bigger factor than ever before, because lo and behold, there's less hours in the day to prepare for these starters. They had less hours to rest. So these relievers are going to be in full display in Citi Field and on the road. So that's all I just wanted to add to that.
Yeah, there goes the Drew Smith love. Just want to throw
The
that
less
out
Drew
there.
Smith pitches, the more the Mets will win. In theory, yes, absolutely. Poor guy.
That's a good recipe. So real quick before we move on, a shout out to the chat who Twitter and YouTube. I don't know if we're streaming for anywhere else. Shout out to you guys for watching. Like I said, we've been fluctuating. I don't know what total numbers actually are, but remember, like and subscribe. Subway to Shea and Sons, Amish Country Mets fans, of course, your boy Mets Trucker Podcast. And so, with that said, we're gonna break into the final segment, and I want to talk lineup. I want to talk pretty much everything in the nine that we're gonna see, because once again, this is just like a complete. I don't know the next time we'll get to do this together, so we might as well do a whole big old family breakdown now. But let's talk. Let's talk how you feel about it. Maybe what your potential starting nine is, or your dark horses to make an impact on this roster. Any thoughts you might have on the field play? Keith, we'll start with you.
Well, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I know there's been quite a lot of debate about Brandon Nimmo and the profile of player he has become, but I'm not taking him out of the leadoff spot. I'm not. I just think that if it's working, leave it alone. You know what I'm saying? And I think that there is something that I don't know he'll work on, but I really wish he did, because I don't think he realizes how good he is with it. It is running. And I think that if he added that element to his game, he'd be a bona fide all-star. Like, when I say bona fide, it wouldn't even be a question. He'd probably be the best leadoff guy in baseball. For me, I don't know about the number 2 slot personally because of matchups, but I'm not switching Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso. So 3-4 is always going to stay the same. I don't mind maybe occasionally having Lindor in the 2 slot, but I want Lindor either 2 or 3rd. Now, that 2 slot, the thing about 2 slot, you can throw in McNeil, but then that's 2 lefties back-to-back. Or you can go the 2022 route. And if Marte finds himself, which I think I have a little bit of optimism for, now you got 2 speedy guys in front of Lindor and Alonso, which ideally, in theory, is what you really do want, right? There's been talk for Francisco Alvarez in the 2-hole. I just don't. I think that's just too much responsibility for him at this point, along with the fact that he has other things to do. Harrison Bader, in my opinion, I'll touch on him more. I think he's that prototypical number 9 hitter. So I think right now it's literally a toss-up between McNeil and Marte at the 2 slot. Now, the 5-hole hitter is what everyone talks about. Oh, we got to add a DH. We got to do this. Well, necessarily it might be in front of us, with Francisco Alvarez. I think this is a really good opportunity to try him in the 5-hole. I personally believe that. Could be wrong, but if you want to alternate with splits or backward splits, you could even look at the 2022 version of Jeff McNeil. His OPS was over 1,000 when he was batting in the 5th hole, right behind Alonso. So if you have Marte in the 2-hole, then maybe you want McNeil in the 5-hole, and then maybe Alvarez in the 6-hole. You could do a whole lot of funny stuff like that. Ideally, what this lineup is going to come down to, and I know we're going to spend some time on it. I did mention Harrison Bader in the number 9 hole. This is going to come down to who's playing 3rd base for the New York Mets. And I think depending on where you're putting them, how they're getting on base, how they're approaching their at-bats, 7 or 8 is where you're going to see either Mark Vientos or Brett Beatty. In a perfect world, maybe they're both in the lineup and they're both producing, one at 3rd base, one in the DH slot. So I think there's 2 combinations, the 2-hole, the 5-hole, and then depending on what happens at 3rd base. You did mention dark horses. I've been saying it to you, saying it to everybody. My favorite dark horse situation is Tyrone Taylor. Love it. Think it's going to surprise a lot of people. No one's talking about it. Big fan of Tyrone Taylor, because if Marte needs to hit the show for about 2 weeks, I want Tyrone Taylor in the outfield. Love what he brings. I was very happy with that move. But yeah, Brandon Nimmo, 1, and then 3, 4, Pete, Lindor and Pete, and I don't want to mix that up. And then everything else should find a way into the lineup itself. Just real quick, to me, as much as of a Lindor fan, and I'm Pete fan, everyone knows I love Lindor, but Pete, love him too. This lineup really, really is predicated, in my personal opinion, on legs. That's why I want Brandon Nimmo to set the tone. I think Brandon Nimmo is the key, really, to start the whole engine. And I think we know that, but I think there is elements to him that hasn't been touched. Now, I know he has an injury history, but I really do feel like, competition breeds success. And when you see guys taking another element to their game and elevating it, it's a beautiful thing. There's been talk amongst Met fans, Brandon Nimmo in the 5-hole. I don't like it. I don't personally like it because you're clogging a slow runner in front of him if Pete gets on base. So I'm not a big fan of that. There's been 60 doubles hit from Brandon Nimmo in the 1-hole the last 2 years. 60 doubles. I love that from a leadoff hitter. You know what I'm saying? He had an uptick in power last year. He's getting on base for Lindor and Pete to drive him in. Don't mess with it. The bottom of the lineup, that's where the questions are. But last point, and I'll send it over to the next gentleman. Wherever Francisco Alvarez is in this lineup is probably where most eyes are going to go. I think that's where the fun is going to be, personally. So want to see him grow as a hitter, want to see him go the opposite way a little bit, want him to take a lot more pitches this year. So if he can do that, who cares about JD Martinez? I do think, though, people who are clamoring for JD Martinez, me one of them, the reason why I do want him here is not necessarily all the time being in the lineup, but to be around those kids. I don't think he's coming, personally. But at this point in the juncture, it just seems like the kids are being given every opportunity to succeed. And I want that to happen for the Mets. And we'll see what happens, hopefully for the better, positive vibes, and, LFGM.
No doubt, no, definitely for sure. Chat, we're gonna get to you. I just want to get through everybody and their thoughts, and you got some good questions popping up and some good thoughts. Before everybody goes, definitely want to chime in on that. So keep dropping the comments, like, subscribe, all that good fancy stuff. But Ant, go ahead.
To go along with what Keith said about moving Brandon Nimmo down the order, that only works if you get a legitimate speedster at the top of the lineup.
I agree.
There's no point in moving Nimmo down the order if we don't have a Jose Reyes type guy that's going to steal bases, that's going to get on base. If McNeil had legs, that would be the guy, since he, the way he gets on base. But they don't have that. So Nimmo at the top of the order, like Keith said, is the right way to go. Marte going back to the number 2 slot is best for him. And then obviously Lindor, Alonso, that's your 3-4, however you want to do it. You want to swap them, whatever way they have it. But Lindor, Alonso, 3-4. And I've been talking about Alvarez being in that 5th hole for a while. A lot of people don't want to give it to him right away because, he's still young. But I don't know. This kid seems way mature for his age. I mean, the fact that the way he can call games, how impressive his defense is, if he can lay off some of these pitches that kind of hindered him last season and gave him the struggles, we definitely have something. He is way mature for his age, and I really like what we've seen from him. I don't know if you guys saw his interview with Steve Gelbs today. I mean, The guy is getting it in English. I mean, he's learning, and I don't know. He just seems like a guy that's going to become a leader. You saw him working with Parada the other day, teaching Parada things of all catchers.
No comment. Good Lord.
Hey man, if this guy's going to show his leadership skills, we're seeing a lot of leadership skills this offseason. We've seen it from Lindor, we see it from Alvarez. The bottom of the lineup is where everything gets dicey, right? Because last year it was basically Death Valley. I mean, they barely got any production, and you could throw their Ruizes out there that they had after the trade deadline, but that lineup is predicated at the bottom on what Beatty and Vientos can do. I think that Beatty's going to be the 3rd baseman. Vientos might get a few days there. But if Vientos can show some consistency, and let's be fair, these guys have not seen 300 at-bats yet. They haven't seen a full season worth of at-bats between the both of them.
Yeah.
So if Vientos can find that power stroke and be the DH, like it all makes sense to bring in a guy like Keith said of a JD Martinez because he's going to be your DH. Now the Mets like to play this game and this cute game of the lefty DH coming in and the righty DH coming in, and it just doesn't work. It hasn't worked for us,
Nope.
right? JD Martinez, not JD Davis, Dom Smith didn't work.
Nope.
They tried it again last year, didn't work.
Mhm.
Now you have, with Vogelback, and I don't remember who the righty was. Like it was such a malaise of a season that I try to, get it out of my head. But Vientos is going to have to see a lot of at bats and be that DH because I don't know how much.
It was
Canna. There you go,
Canna,
Mark
yeah.
Canna. I don't know how much I really want to see of DJ Stewart. Like don't let the 2 weeks that DJ Stewart lit up. Don't let that fool you right now. I mean, he went right back to the player he was for the
Right.
last month of the season.
Yep.
And I like DJ Stewart. I want to see him succeed. He says all the right things. He plays hard.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, this team, this offense, needs to succeed. And I don't know if it does that if DJ Stewart is taking at bats away from Mark Vientos, who, I think has more power potential if he's given the opportunity than a DJ Stewart was. And then they brought in G-Man Choi and they brought in Luke Voigt. I don't know where that.
Yeah.
I guess if these guys don't work out during the spring, whatever. Yeah. But depth backup fine if these guys get hurt.
That's
and
how I looked at it. Depth.
Yeah. Bader at the bottom of the lineup is I think he'll be your 9 hitter, and I think he'll be fine. Obviously, he'll hit against left-handed pitching. That's what they brought him in for. And then you bring in Tyrone Taylor in there as well. And if the DH doesn't work out for the way they want to do it with Stewart and Vientos, I would definitely consider Starling Marte. I know he doesn't want to do it. He said it in the presser, but if Drew Gilbert is lighting it up in AAA, and you can bring him up to play in the outfield with Bader and Tyrone Taylor and Nimmo, got to move Marte to DH. I looked at I don't know if it was his baseball savant. Yeah, he's got a great arm, but him going side to side and covering the field was poor.
Yep.
Like poor.
Sure
and
was.
you can't expect him to come back and play 150, 140 games with 2 torn, his groin torn. I know he's 100% now, but that can get re-aggravated. So if Drew Gilbert's lighting it up, I would definitely consider moving Marte to be the DH.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, no. Okay, Almas.
He froze?
No, I had to find it.
Oh, okay.
My thing froze for a minute. But it's tough to go after these guys because they're very smart gentlemen. They're basically saying what I'm thinking. But yeah, listen, as far as Nimmo moving him off the leadoff spot, to me, we don't have another leadoff hitter. So, like Ant said, it just doesn't make sense. Like, McNeil's the closest thing, but McNeil has no speed, and McNeil loves to chase the first pitch. And if you want to make the pitcher work, you want to work at bats, you want to tire that guy out in the first inning, McNeil's not helping you do that because McNeil's out there hacking. Yeah, he gets on base a lot when he gets his singles because he's a singles hitter, let's face it. But he's not the guy that's going to work the count for you. So to me, Nimmo has to be the leadoff guy. Whether he's power hungry Nimmo or not, that's his role. I wish, like he said, he'd worked on his running game a little bit, could steal us a few more bases, but it is what it is. It's whatever. He gets on base. That's the money ball line that everybody loves. Man gets on base. It's what we need him to do. So let him cook in the leadoff role. Our 2-hitter, like I said, again, unless you want to do, we've always been, at least recently, the last few years, it's always been we have to go left, right. We can't have 2 lefties in a row, 2 righties in a row. So I find it hard to believe that McNeil would be the 2-hitter. Feels like if Marte is healthy, he's going to get that spot again. And let's talk about him for a second. Like, that guy's a catalyst, man. If he can find a way to stay healthy and be 2022 Marte, even in even a little bit, that changes the game for the Mets lineup. The dude was a big reason why that lineup in 2022 worked, and it flowed and it scored runs and it aggravated the hell out of opposing pitchers. He was up there driving people crazy. He was moving well. He was speedy. He was getting his hits. The dude was a great two-hitter. We just gotta hope that he bounces back, because if he gives us 2023 Starling Marte, then this lineup's in a little bit of trouble. Let's be real. Unless Drew Gilbert is ready, and he could be, right. We're gonna see him at some point this year. How soon, we'll see. Injuries and what have you will probably play a huge role in that. But and then Lindor. I mean, I don't mind him in the 2-hole, but I think he fits more as that 3-hitter. Pete's gonna be your cleanup guy, and I've been preaching it along with you guys. It's time to just let Alvy Swinker swing.
Amen. Amen.
You just throw him in there, man. The kid, I don't think he's afraid of the moment. I think he can do it in the 5-hole. Let him cook.
Amen.
And then after that, you're probably going to see McNeil in the 6-hole. And for the love of God, whatever you do with McNeil, don't do what Buck did. Don't move this guy around every night.
Yep.
The 2-hole, the 3-hole, the 7-hole, the 6-hole.
Yep.
Leave him be. If he's your 6-hitter, let him be your 6-hitter. Because I'm not the biggest McNeil fan. You guys know this. But if he's going to succeed, if he's going to be the best McNeil that he can be, you need to just let him cook in one spot. Let him do his thing. Let him get his singles. Hopefully he can find holes again that went away a little bit with the shift rules last year. I personally don't really feel like it's going to happen. But, again, I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love to see him bounce back and hit 300 again.
Amen. And
then it comes down to the great debate, right? Who's our third baseman? Is it really a debate? Tone says it is. I don't really think it is. I think at the end of the day, Brett Beatty's going to be your third baseman. And that's not to say Vientos is not going to play, because I think if Beatty is your third baseman, then Mark Vientos is your DH. I don't want to see DJ. I know we're going to. I don't want to see DJ Stewart more than I have to. I really don't believe in that little fairy tale run he had. If you look at his track record, he's never been that guy. I just don't see it. I see there's more of a possibility in my eyes that G-Man Choi or freaking Luke Voigt runs would hit that role more than DJ Stewart. Like, I'm being real. Like,
I agree.
So hopefully it's not. Hopefully Vientos gets the bulk, and hopefully he can show us something, because I think there is potential there. He obviously has the power. There was some holes in his swing, but we can't lie about that. And then the other X factor is Brett Beatty, right? Brett Beatty had an amazing track record. Brett Beatty was a top prospect. On every list that you could find, Brett Beatty was a certified top prospect that everyone loved. In the minors, no matter what level, he hit. He hasn't shown it in the major leagues. Hopefully, I know Tone doesn't believe in him, but hopefully this is his time. Hopefully now he feels like maybe that push that the Mets seem to be trying to give him, with like hinting that his job isn't safe and whatnot. Maybe he needs that. Maybe he needs a little bit of a push and a little bit of motivation. And he finds whatever it is that he had in the minors, and he translate that to the majors. Because if he does, then again, outside of that Marte thing, Brett Beatty being the Brett Beatty that he was in the minor leagues completely changes this team. Brett Beatty being able to take the job and run with it at third base and being our future third baseman, that would be amazing. But outside of that, Bader is what he is. Listen, I'm not going to pretend I don't think that this dude's just going to get hurt after like a month and a half. It's what he does. I hope not. I hope he can stay on the field. But more than likely he's more of a platoon guy anyway. Like Keith, I love Tyrone Taylor. I hope he can cook a little bit out in
Yes.
the field. Give
Yes.
him his opportunity to make some noise. I think he will. And then outside of that, it's whether we see some of these kids at some point, right? Gilbert, I think he has the goods. I think not everyone's sold on Acuna. I think we're going to see him sooner than later.
Yes, sir. Yep.
If it were up to me, and this is a hot take, I wouldn't have been afraid to still trade Jeff McNeil after Mauricio got hurt, because I really think that changed the dynamic of what we did with this roster. And if you had Mauricio still around, I think McNeil would be gone already.
Amen.
Personally, I would have still done it and let Acuna cook. I don't know. Maybe that's crazy. Maybe I'm a nut job, but and
I'm right with you. I'm with you on that one.
A bit of that McNeil hate, I guess, shining through. But yeah, I think this lineup isn't that bad. I personally would have liked a JD Martinez. I don't think it's gonna happen. Like he said, I think not only does his bat inspire a little more confidence in me than Mark Vientos, but he has so much knowledge to input on these kids. And that would be nice to have around, I think. I think that would be a help. But I don't see it happening. But, yeah, I don't think this lineup is that bad. I think at the end of the day, the pitching is what's going to make the difference. And that's usually the case anyways. But, yeah, I really hope Marte – like, to me, Marte just finding a way to stay healthy and be that pesky bastard at the top of the lineup, that would make a huge difference for us.
Amen. Facts.
So
but facts.
Amish was whatever he was doing just now. I'm ready to eat it. I am so ready to eat it. Nom 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 nom. You know what I mean? Anyway, there was a question for you by AP Amish. Do you think McNeil's lineup placement may be determined on whether Marte is back being productive?
Yeah, I mean it could, because if Marte is last year's Marte, if he can't stay on the field, if he's hurt, then you have a big hole in the 2 spot that you got to fill with somebody, right? So then that's going to shift. You're either going to shift Lindor to that 2 spot. Do you maybe put McNeil in the 3 hole in that case? I don't know. Like, I don't know. These are questions for Mendoza, who gets paid a lot more than any of us, him and his analytic crew. But, yeah, I think Marte's ability to stay on the field, ability to actually produce, makes a huge difference in where McNeil ends up in that lineup.
Amen.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of what you guys said, and I'm reading the chat, and a few people want to see Lindor at number 1 due to his numbers in Cleveland and due to how he looked in the WBC. So Cassie keeps shaking his head furiously.
No, why? He had a 31 season this past year, and 2 years ago he had 27 home runs, 100 RBIs. Why are we gonna mess around with that? Just because we need a leadoff guy? You got a leadoff guy, Dallo. Why?
3, 4, 5.
This is not Cleveland, all right? And he's older. He is a run-producing shortstop.
Yep.
He's not
3, 4, and 5. When you hit 31 home runs, 3, 4, 5 hitter. That's it.
There you go. And there ain't a lot of shortstops that do this shit. Let me tell you, man. He is on a Hall of Fame path. Don't fuck it up. I will be at Cooperstown when he gets inducted. Best believe. On the pitches or not.
Regardless of what some people might think about him, that man is worth every penny as a shortstop in the MLB. Right. So just to go over my thoughts on the lineup. So I feel differently about the Nimmo situation at number 1. Because I have seen a switch in his game. I have seen an approach change in his game, and from everything that he said, and I'm fine with it. I love it. I appreciate it. But this is also contingent on Marte being fully healthy. So I'm going into a perfect world. I'm going into everything is okay. There's the groin is working. You know, he's doing his Dembo and DR Winter, like he's doing his thing. So I would have Marte lead off at number one because that speed, guy get on base, guy could steal a bag with the two twice throw over rule. Uh, that's the guy that could lead the league in steals. To be honest with you, so at the end of the day, yes, do we love Nemo at the top and his ability to walk and stuff like that? But if he's switching his approach, if you have a guy with speed and Marte who's healthy, whether he's at DH or right field, that's a guy I want to see lead off the game because he's an immediate threat to see to get into the pitcher's head when he's on base and all that good stuff. So second, I've been battling with the second because the bottom part of this lineup for me is really not a lot to look at. So I've been battling with the thought of my number two guy. And I've been battling between Jeff McNeil and Francisco Alvarez, which has been kind of like my two different ends of the spectrum. Because what McNeil presents at the second spot is if you have Marte at the top, is he's a guy that will make contact. He's a guy that's not going to strike out. So a ground ball moves Marte over. So if you're telling me with the two pitches, Marte still second, just a scenario, you get a ground ball from McNeil, you have Marte sitting on third, that's immediate pressure out the gate. Now, my ploy for Alvarez is his bat could set you off at a 2-0 could set you off start you off at a 2-0 or 1-0, kind of like a la Kyle Schwarber. But I do know it's a lot of responsibility on his plate, especially being a catcher. I do understand that. So I battle back and forth between that. 3 and 4, yes, Lindor Pete. Number 5, I go with Nimmo because him being at left field and having the approach more power, like I think that's a potential to be a 30 home run guy. Because when he caught on fire last year, he was knocking things out. I think he had his career high in homers last year, if I'm not mistaken. And that was his thing. He's like, I want to hit more homers. Him moving over to left field, that kind of like plays into him being more of a power hitter, because generally left fielders have more power, and he's still going to be a good hitter. But I think him batting later in the lineup allows him to sit into that role that he wants to sit into so badly. As opposed to, how he works. He's great at working count. I think he'll be great no matter what. But I just feel like being later behind Pete allows that power to go. And if he shows that he's deadly behind Pete, it's going to have a lot of people shook. You know what I mean? And that's a guy that I really look forward to. So now, Bader, of course, would be at the end of my lineup. We can't really count on Bader. So then that leaves me what? Third base and DH. So I'm going off the mindset that we don't sign anybody, right? Yes, we want JD Martinez. If anybody knows me, I want protection for Pete, guaranteed protection for Pete, but that's not happening. So my biggest thing is that when it comes down to third base, is that whoever wins Beatty or Vientos, I think they're both going to get equal shots out of the gate, to be honest with you. I don't think one is going to overtake the other. And I think they're going to see equal reps, and the hot hand is the one that's going to be that place. But when it comes down to it, there's a solid chance I think we might see McNeil at third base this year. I really think that happens. And, and then the Mets try to find out what they have in the other kids if they're doing well in the minors, like in Acuna. But we don't know if that's going to happen for sure. But I feel like if none of them could really grab a hold of this position, I think you shore it up by just throwing McNeil over there and then trying another kid out. Because there was a comment here that made me think about that by Josue de Jesus, where he said they're going to play young players the whole year to understand the state of this farm system and know how to operate in the coming years, and that's the right approach. I 100% agree with that. And I think that's something real. I do that. I think that was, I think that's something real, and that's why I say like we could see the pivot if the third baseman job doesn't go well to sticking McNeil at third and trying to figure out if we have anything at second base. And there was a comment earlier that says the Ronnie Mauricio injury really hurt, and it did because I think Mauricio had either third or second on lock, but he had a position on lock. Like I said, if Mauricio was healthy, maybe McNair was more expendable, or maybe Mauricio was de facto third baseman. With what he showed and the improvement he showed. But either or, I think that the thing that we don't talk about enough is the return of Eric Chavez, as a hitting coach. Because in 2022, the approaches they took was pretty much bat to ball and get on base by any means necessary. Um, and in 2023, for whatever reason, they completely switched their whole approach with Barnes. So it's an interesting thing. It's gonna be an interesting year. Uh, and third base and DH are gonna be the keys to how this team does offensively, in my opinion. So who's to say that if Luke Voigt doesn't start raking in this spring training, as much as none of us really want to see it, where he doesn't get that opportunity out the gate to be behind Pete, because this is a year for Pete, whether we like it or not. I think they want to make sure to see what he has and not to press the way he did last year with Vogel back behind him, because he was the last line of defense. So with that said, I just want to ask your projections before Saturday starts spring training. I just want to start and say that I do think that this team sits around 84 and 86 wins, which if you look at the last few years, including the year before the wild card came into place, the team that would have made it would have had 83 wins. The Phillies the following year had 87, and then last year, both teams had 84 wins. So I think the Mets are in realistic range, and I do feel like when it comes down to it, we might see a 2015 type of deals being made where Stearns is going to see enough of what he has, and if the Mets are right there for the taking, with hanging with the Braves some way somehow, and the Phillies, um, he's gonna pull the triggers to where he got to pull to. You know what I mean? And I fully believe that. But Amish, what you thinking for a record? What's your projection?
I think I bumped up a little bit. I'm gonna go with 83 and 79. I feel like they land somewhere in that mid 80s. And that's without making any moves though. Like if they do like make some moves and they are in it and Stearns gets a little bit aggressive, then maybe that bumps up to 85, 86, 87 wins. But I definitely think that this team isn't going to be a team that gets walked all over. I think if they can stay relatively healthy, they'll be in games, and they'll be in the hunt, and they'll be in that wild card hunt. And then it's once you get in the wild card, it's luck, man. Let's face it. There's a lot of luck that plays into the playoffs, and if you get hot at the right time, and the right pitchers get hot, and the right hitters start hitting at just that right perfect time, you can just go from an 83 win team to a World Series team. So that's what I'm hoping for, and I'm hoping for a fun season. But yeah, I think the people, the doom and gloomers that are saying that this team is like a 70 win team, I just don't see it. I think everything would have to break wrong for that to happen. I mean, obviously it's the Mets. That's not out of the realm of possibility, I suppose. But I just don't choose to be that negative. So yeah, give me 83 and 79, and let's see if I'm right at the end of the year.
Go ahead.
At a low, I'm going to go a low 79 and then a high either 83, 84 wins. I'm right there with Nelson. There are still a lot of ifs, whether it's good ifs or bad ifs. Ifs are still a part of this team, and you got somewhat of the same lineup going out there. You got a new rotation, and those rotations have somewhat of ifs. And then we don't know we're going to get to the bullpen. It's going to be we're all optimistic about it, but I think right now, 83, 84 wins for me. So I agree with Nelson on that front. I hope it's more. And obviously, like we said, things can change. This team could be doing well, and maybe there's a trade that could happen, or it could get worse. So you never know. But 79 low, 83, 84 as my win total for the Mets this year.
Okay, Keith.
They're gonna, in my eyes, they're gonna be an improved baseball team. It's gonna be a better product on the field, but essentially, I just think they're gonna be a 500 ball club. Respectfully, I think they're gonna be 81 and 81, and I think it'll be a better watch, and I think it's a good stepping stone for the future. 75 wins is not a representation of this group of talent, and neither is 81 wins, respectfully. But where I see it going, at the end of the day, I think really what's going to really help us get to where we need to get to is Carlos Mendoza. I'm a big component of Mendy. But it's a very, very difficult division. I think the Nationals are going to be a much improved ball club. I think the National League in general is a death trap, and it's not taking anything away from the Mets, but I have high regard for some of the ball clubs in the National League. And yeah, we play everybody, but I'm more along the lines with okay with understanding the baby steps. I actually think that the stat that you use often, the 19 blown saves, I actually don't think we're gonna have as many, but I don't know if that always is gonna result to victories, because we could just lose outright, or we can win outright. I don't think we're gonna have that many blown saves. What I do expect though is, we could get into a situation where this team may face a wall with the starting pitching if, ideally Senga is not there. And that's my worry. I don't really worry about much else. I think every team could get hurt. Guys get hurt everywhere. But, if I'm being realistic, if, Sevy's track record lives up to what it is, he can have a really good season and then all of a sudden miss a few starts, and then we have to put a little bit of pressure on some of the kids or other starting pitchers for that matter. And, to piggyback off what Nelson said a while back, I'm not the biggest McGill guy. We talk all the time. I'm not. And he is going to be a huge part of this team this year. So, without that kind of mixing into the mix, I don't want to sit here and be right. I'm aiming to be wrong, but 500 more or less, 83 wins, I'll jump up and down, to be honest with you. But 81 wins, I'll be pretty happy. But it's gonna be a better product, I think, on the field.
Yeah. So, I don't know where Ant went, but I know he wanted to talk about something. So, if you guys give me a couple more minutes of your time, um, I know that this went from a Latin hour to a Latin 2 hours, but hey, the more Puerto Ricans on your screen, the better. The more time that we have. So, he's back. Hold on, 1 sec. There he is.
Sorry,
So,
I froze
go
there. So
ahead.
Shout out Ibby for making that Latin clock right there. That's pretty sweet.
Beautiful,
Fire.
beautiful. Thank you,
Fire.
Ivy.
That is fire. I like that one.
But before I drop my closing lines and one closing question that I'm saving for the end, and if you got something to add, go ahead.
Yeah, Keith brought up Mendoza. You brought up Eric Chavez as well. I was a proponent of bringing Mendoza in once we found out who was the guys outside of, I guess, Craig Counsell to be manager. I thought Mendoza, especially coming from being in the Bronx and being a part of New York, was a good move. Don't underestimate the hiring of John Gibbons as the bench coach.
Yeah, love that.
Very
I actually
important.
really do love that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very important hiring. That was my biggest concern when it comes to bringing in a new manager like Carlos Mendoza, is someone that's going to back him on the bench that has been around the league and has done this, and he's done it in Toronto very successfully too, taking them to the playoffs multiple times. And that hiring right there, I find is going to be important moving forward.
I think that's going to help with, opposing pitchers throwing at us. I think he's going to put a nip in the butt with that. I actually really feel strongly about that. I agree with you, Ant. I just want to ask one question. Mendy looks good in a Met jersey, man.
He does.
Right? Mendy, he really is walking yo,
Hopefully they don't ask him any more dumb questions, like
Yeah.
if he has the same desire as Met fans to win a World Series.
You know, I'm waiting for them to ask Mendy, what's it like to speak Spanish? You know what I mean? A question like that, because that's the type of shit they say.
But he does wear the jersey, like, and you know, no disrespect to our past managers, you know, not to be a dick, but you know, I wasn't a big fan of Buck. Neither was Tone, but you know, the last manager that I really loved, you know what I'm saying, Willie Randolph. And I haven't, like, the way he wore the Met jersey, like, I feel that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has this aura about him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you saw it in his press conference too. He got emotional, how much this meant to him to be manager. Willie was the same way, and I always go with my guy Bobby V. Bobby V to me was he lived, breathed, and died with the Mets.
Yes,
and I love that about these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you know, with that said, I'm gonna ask this one question, and then I'll close. I got a little closing spiel, but here's the question from my boy Rick. I can't let you guys finish the podcast without asking this question to my
saw
fellow
that.
Boricua. Do you clap when a plane lands?
Yes.
Of course, you have to. You have to.
You have to. It's like born in you, bro.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's a little different for me because I'm not flying. I feel like that's, if I'm flying to PR and from PR, then that's a yes, because all the crazy But if I'm flying like for me, I fly either Pittsburgh to Atlanta or Cleveland to Atlanta to see my family. Ain't nobody clapping on the plane. I ain't gonna be the only crazy motherfucker. We like, hey, we
Yeah.
I got a funny story about that. I flew to Spain, and I was the only one who did that shit. I felt so bad. Because I'm like, oh, it's Spain. They probably do the same shit. No, they don't. They don't. They looked at me like I was crazy, bro. So, yes, I agree with Amish. I agree.
They probably knew you was Puerto Rican off rip. They said,
yeah,
"Oh
they
no,
were
we
like,
can't let him in. We can't."
He's the fake kind. Yeah, that's what they did right off the rip. Oh wow, shit. Only
of course, but gentlemen, man, it's been a pleasure once again. Just a shout out for everybody who's been here that stuck around for almost 2 hours. Shouts to you. Shouts to the viewers. Shouts to the chats. If you're watching this on repeat or sharing it and watching it later, shouts to you. Like, follow, subscribe. Mets Trucker Podcast. Amish Country Mets fan. Subway to Shea. Shea and Sons. Although we're missing one half, Kate, we see you, man. We miss you. Wish you were here. But with that said, once again, I just want to point out, and I feel like this is very, very important. I know that we all Puerto Rican in this specific chat video that we're doing, this live that we're doing, but we represent more than that. We represent our Caribbean brothers and sisters. We represent minorities who do podcasting that might not get enough recognition. Like, I'm starting from the bottom, but like I said, I said it before and I'll say it again. These guys on this screen deserve so much more love than what it is that they have and what it is that they receive. We literally have a star in Subway to Shea who's on SNY speaking his opinion. I don't know how much bigger we could get than that. I don't know what more we need to see, to like and subscribe and listen to this man's content. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that we should, and this isn't, I don't want nobody to take this as, oh, this is a race thing, anything like that. But the truth is, you know, we see the quality that these guys on the screen put out, and them not getting the love that they deserve. I feel like something that has to be addressed, and something I hope that if you're sticking around in this, that you listen to them more, you love them more, you share it more, and you put these guys on the pedestal they deserve to be on, along with the top of the top dogs that there are in the podcasting world. Talking about sports, period. We love this game. We love this game. You know what I mean? And these three gentlemen have put in the work beyond work, the content that they put out every single day, their breakdowns and the hosts, the people that they have on their shows is second to none. You know what I mean? And you know, we try to stay true to, you know, to who we are, and I hope that through everything that you know, we remember that we're Caribbean, we're strong, you know, we're Puerto Rican and all that, and it's been all love. It's been fun. It's been amazing. Gentlemen, we have to figure out how to do this by All-Star break, maybe. Get another round table in, but this time instead of an hour, maybe we'll call it 2 hours to prep ourselves, and we'll get Key included in this. And if there's any other, Hispanics out there who do podcasts and reach out, show love, we'll show love to you. We'll put you on a pedestal as well, man. It's all love. But once again, this is Mets Trucker Podcast, Shea and Sons Podcast, Subway to Shea Podcast, and Amish Country Mets fans. One love. Bendición a todo. A todo a bendiciones. Have a good night.